Color correction, what it actually involves. Clients often used to come to me with a reference from Pinterest or Instagram. They thought a colorist just paints on hair and the results only depends on whether the person can copy the picture. That is absolutely not the case. If your natural hair color matches the reference and your hair is 100% natural, then fine. But if your hair has been colored before and the task isn't just a root touch up or a slight tone on tone shift, it's considered a color correction. Any color manipulation is a complex task, even if it doesn't seem that way to you as a consumer. The most important part of this work is a consultation. This where the stylist identifies the client's needs and builds an algorithm. For example, you have 50% gray hair and you color your roots at home once a month for level 5 natural. And you realize that the more gray you have, the faster the contrast between the roots and color land becomes visible. You want to fix this. Believe it or not, there are many ways to do it. Gray blending through translucent coloring, moving to lighter shades, either a few tones lighter or a total blonde, or maybe an airtouch with a 60% lift. A stylist can show you references of what it might look like, but that's not enough. You must do test strands to see if the hair can handle the algorithm and which one is the most effective. This is a common mistake for beginner stylists. They have standard schemes and think they can just follow them to get the result, but coloring is a chemical and physical process that isn't always predictable. If you're a client and the stylist suggests a test strand, don't refuse. It's not an extra upsell, and it's certainly not a sign of a lack of experience. On the contrary, a stylist with more experience will always doubt the result more. An overconfident colleague who ignores this part of the job is more likely to get a bad result. Only after the test strand result is the algorithm finalized. Every detail must be considered. If a mistake is made, for example, if a stylist uses bleaching powder instead of high-leaf dye because they felt the risk was justified in the moment, there can be negative consequences for the hair quality. A professional always works based on the situation. They have a plan but carefully observe the process. For example, sometimes when you rub hair in foil, it starts to smoke and heat up. This means an exothermic reaction is happened due to the metal buildup on the surface or inside the hair. This usually happens when the stylist skips the prep stage and doesn't remove metals and minerals. The only right step here is to admit the mistake, stop the reaction by removing the foils, rinse the bleach, and move to the metal removal stage. Only then, after another test strand, can you go back to work. The more complex the initial situation, the more color zones and the more damaged the hair, the less predictable the result. A sensible stylist will suggest what can be safely corrected over time, rather than just a picture you like best. Sometimes a stylist has to be honest and say that the result the client wants is impossible without losing the hair quality. There are times when we even have to refuse a client if they won't listen to professional advice. The responsibility always lies with the person holding the tool, not the person asking for result. If you're interested in this topic, leave your questions, like and subscribe. This all about hair. This was Vadim Paradox. See you soon.